If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
Rick, you got 5 minutes and you're on the clock.
All right, thanks very much, Nestor, for this great opportunity. Today I thought I'd start a discussion that everyone could join in on my blog at WNST.net. In preparing for today, I found myself reminiscing and recalling some of my best Orioles memories from my childhood and into my adulthood. And this is really all we've had around here to hang on for the last 11 plus years. There haven't been many good Oriole memories during this time. But now my frame of reference goes back a little farther than most of the other contestants, but here goes with my favorite memories. Number 4, attending Game 6 of the 1971 World Series. My father took me, I had just turned 9, and I was really starting to get into baseball. I had no idea at the time the greatness that I was witnessing on the field at Memorial Stadium. Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Mike Cuellar, Paul Blair, Boog, and on the other side, the great Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell. The Birds won that game to push it to Game 7, but unfortunately Game 7 didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. Number 3 on my list, 1979, the year Orioles magic was in full swing. Late in the season, Doug DeCinces hits a game-winning homer in the bottom of the 9th. Memorial Stadium erupts like I had never heard it before. Camden Yards, in its 17 years, has never come close to that level of noise. The fans refused to leave. Wild Bill was on the dugout, and soon all the players came out on the field and started spelling Orioles with him. Doug DeCinces had taken a shower and came back out on the field in his street clothes to join the spelling bee. And there was such a connection between the club and the city, something that's really been missing these past 11 plus years. It truly was a magical night. Number 2, the final weekend of the 1982 season. The Orioles were down by 3 games to the Brewers with 4 games to play in a 4-game series against the Brewers to wrap up the season. Remember those twilight doubleheaders where you went in at 5, had a game until 8 or so, then they'd start the second game by 8:30. That was the greatest bargain in sports. Of course, they don't have them anymore. But there was a twilight doubleheader that Friday, and the Birds, in a do-or-die, won both ends of the twin bill. My father and I, unfortunately, had to be out of town driving up 95 that night, and we were on pins and needles with every pitch driving up the road as the great Chuck Thompson made us feel as though we were there. My father and I were high-fiving each other in this truck as Chuck shouted, "Ain't the beer cold?" And we got back to Baltimore the next day, Saturday, and went to the game that night with the Birds now down just 1 game with 2 to play. The O's won again against the Brewers to tie it up, so it all came down to 1 game for the AL East Championship on Sunday, pitting 2 Hall of Famers, Jim Palmer against Don Sutton. The Birds lost, but the fans again refused to leave, as they said goodbye to the great Earl Weaver, who was retiring, at least for the time being. And my number 1 memory, one number really says it all, 21-31. The O's were not doing that well that year, but we had Cal, the greatest story in all of sports that year, who saved baseball, I would say. It was actually amazing how some event as predictable as the sun rising in the morning was so dramatic and so exciting. The energy that was flowing in Camden Yards that night was palpable. As the top of the 5th concluded, making the game official, Cal shook hands with, I would say, half of the 50,000 people who were there. A personal memory, before the game, as I was walking through one of the tunnels in the warehouse, a limo pulled up right next to us, and as the door opened, all I saw was a head full of pure white hair. And as the person stood up, it was Joe DiMaggio. Amazingly, when we left through the same tunnel, Joltin' Joe walked out of the warehouse and back into the limo right in front of us again. Felt like one of the baseball gods had graced our presence. We've gone through quite a drought these past 11 years. When I was young, the Orioles were the model franchise in all of professional sports. While we wait and hope for the club to turn around, hopefully before my 1-year-old gets her learner's permit, we've got to hang on to something, and that's where these memories come in. The Birds have some position players that can be the core needed to bring back the magic to the yard. Guys like Markakis, Adam Jones, Brian Roberts, Matt Wieters. If the young pitchers still in the farm system pan out, a big if, I know, but if they can, hopefully we can all add some new memories to go along with those from 20 years ago. Briefly, the big question around is, do the Ravens make a big play for Anquan Bolden? I say if they could get him for our 1st and 3rd rounders, go for it. Derek Mason may only have 1 year left. The track record for first-round receivers is the worst for any position, which I learned at the WNST pre-draft party. Bolden's 28, a beast with the ball. Although he doesn't stretch the field, his yards after catch will make up for that. We've got a true franchise quarterback. Let's give him the weapons to take us to the promised land. I'd love to hear back from you about your best O's memories. Thanks very much for your time, and I'm out of here.
Well done, Rick Moore, ladies and gentlemen, here on W.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.